Hello and welcome to Bike Channel Kenya, and today we'll be looking at what has been happening to the middle category sport bikes over the years, in particular the 600cc 4-cylinder Japanese sport bike. The sales of the 600cc sport bike has been on the decline, and calling it a decline is actually an understatement because the sales figures are falling to 10% of what they were in the early 2000s. So let's look at what has led to this decline, shall we? Now, for a little bit of context, in the early and mid-2000s, having a 600 was every biker's dream. Because even if you had the cash, the 1000s were not for the faint-hearted, and they were killing riders left, right, and center. Now, this was the era before traction control, ABS, or any of these fancy rider aids we have now. And the 600s were not slow either. In fact, I remember the first time I ever rode my first 600cc about 9 years ago. After the 20-minute ride, I came back shaking and thinking to myself how such performance was even legal on the road. But compared to the 1000s, they were a much safer bet to anyone looking to upgrade. So because people were afraid on the 1000s, everyone would get a 600. And they were faster in the twisties and the track than the 1000s because you could ride them more aggressively without thinking they are going to kill you any minute. In fact, they were keeping up with the 1000s, and in the corners they were untouchable. You can check out countless videos on YouTube of the legendary R6 humiliating his 1000cc cousin. Number one reason for the decline, rider aids. In 2009, the legendary S1000RR was released, and suddenly even average rider was able to ride a 1000cc bike without the fear of killing himself or turning the title of his missus from wife to widow. Essentially, with all the rider aids like traction control, ABS, wheelie control, modes like sport and rain, everyone could now ride a 1000cc bike. So now, all the people who were buying the 600s because they feared the 1000s ditched their 600 and jumped on the 1000cc wagon. Soon after, Yamaha introduced traction control on the R1 Big Bang model. The 1199 Panigale came with everything the S1000RR had. The Gsx-R had earlier introduced rider modes to the Gsx-R, and the CBR600 had ABS at least. So, with the 1000 becoming more rider-friendly, everyone ditched the 600 and would just jump from a 300 or a 250 straight to the 1000s. Number two, nakeds on the rise. In the mid-2010s, there was a rise in popularity of the naked bikes. When the MT-09 was introduced in 2014, it became the best model Yamaha sold the following year. Well, it may have had at least 10 less horsepower than the R6, but it was comfortable. You could commute with it without your manhood being fried. If you have commuted with a sport bike, you know what I mean. The heat trapped by the fairings in slow-moving traffic where there is no wind can easily make you impotent. And the sound of the MT-09 was intoxicating. And there was the MT-07, in case you thought the MT-09 was a wheelie monster. The other manufacturers like Suzuki came up with the Gsx-750 and the Gsx-1000. Kawasaki had the Z750 from way back, and the Aprilia had the Tuono and the KTM with the likes of the Duke 690 and the 790, and now the 890 and so on. So the 600 once again lost the market share to the naked bikes. Number three, people wanted to travel. At this time too, people were coming from the recession of 2008, and money was starting to flow back to the economy. And now, people wanted to travel and enjoy their money, and the adventure market went crazy. Suddenly, everyone was buying an adventure bike, and manufacturers were making them like there is no tomorrow. It was at this time you started seeing even 400cc adventure bikes because the market was there. And again, the 600cc sport bike was left out. And even if you couldn't afford a full-on adventure bike, with the naked bikes having an upright riding position, all you had to do was add a windscreen, heated grips, and a cushier seat, and boom, you had an adventure bike. Once again, the 600cc lost. Number four, arms race in the 1000cc category. More and more manufacturers have been concentrating their R&D, or if you are abbreviationally challenged, research and development on the 1000cc machines. With more tracks now open to the public, track days have become very popular around the world. And so, as more people can almost use all the power of a 1000cc bike, and the tires becoming stickier than ever, why would anyone buy a 600 when the 1000 can give you more bars? And with the safety of a racetrack and rider aids, it is a no-brainer. Even Honda, which has been of the philosophy for road bikes, introduced their new CBR600 in 2019, which is focused as a track bike with a claimed power of 214 bhp. But Ducati's V4R with a full resin exhaust produces a mind-boggling 234 brake horsepower. I remember watching the press release and I literally got goosebumps when I saw 234 horsepower with a dry weight of 165 kgs. I mean, this development war makes the speed wars of the 90s look like child's play. By the way, you can check the video I made about that in the description. All this means that the 600cc are like the proverbial middle child who is neglected by their parents. Again, a loss for the 600cc class. Number 5, emissions. Yes, the dreaded emissions have been wreaking havoc to the 600cc class. With the R6, Kawasaki's ZX10, the Gsx-R 600 and the CBR600 not being sold to Europe from 2020 and other parts of the world where the emission rules are tight. Personally, I don't think the Japanese engineers could not find a way to make the 600 pass the emissions. Come on, even me with my little engineering knowledge know that leaning the fuel to air ratio mixture and adding like 4 catalytic converters to the exhaust could have done the job. The real reason why I think the Japanese Big Four aren't selling their bikes anymore is because the sales figures are at an all-time low in Europe and America. Yes, here in Africa and Asia, we don't have very strict emission rules, but then again, we're not the target market for this bike. For example, how many people do you know who can buy a new bike here in Kenya, where a new R6 would be at least 1.6 million Kenyan shillings. So with no market, why would they keep making them? And for the real hardcore fans, you can order any of the big 4 600cc 4-cylinder bike as a track-only bike, which means they won't have to pass the emission rules. So there you go, popularity of naked bikes, R&D focused on the 1000, people becoming more adventurous, 1000cc's being more rider-friendly, and emission rules. You know, it is actually sad seeing the state the 600cc 4-cylinder class is in right now. But as they say, change is the only constant. See you on the next one. Kwaheri.